Welcome to Law Talk with BJ. My name is BJ Bernstein. I'm an attorney, and I've had a podcast for the last 2 years, Law Talk with BJ. It's been available on YouTube, but with audio only. It's also been on iTunes and SoundCloud. And on this podcast, I've been interviewing people from all different areas of law and covering all different topics in law. And I've had some great feedback and have really enjoyed it. But now I found myself at home rather than being able to go down to Patchwork Studios in Midtown Atlanta. I miss my friends there. I realized I can't go down and record. We're sheltering in place and taking care and being healthy. I think all of us now maybe know someone or has someone who's been affected by the COVID virus, and we're taking safety precautions. And so I'm working from here and now doing my podcast from here. And just like every podcast I had before, I'm always enjoying a cup of tea and just having conversation about law and issues that I think are important, and hopefully you will too, and that you learn a little bit about something. I think the one thing that we can maybe all agree on with this pandemic that may be on the plus side, because there are a lot of downsides, obviously, but that we're having to realize how responsible we have to be for ourselves, our health, and for our friends and family members to be supportive and be aware of what's going on and be aware of how to take care of our health. And I would add to it, taking care of our legal health. Understanding the legal system is critical in so many ways. Law is a part of your life, and you don't need to go to law school to have the basic awareness of when you need help, how you need help, and where to start, how to be prepared and handle legal issues that come your way. So that's what we're going to try to do with this podcast now that it's on video. And rather than me interviewing a bunch of folks, I'm going to just talk to y'all for a couple of videos. Here we go, and see how this works its way out. Just like I did with the podcast, I'm enjoying a cup of tea with every episode. I love to have a cup of tea, and so hopefully you'll just relax with me, maybe grab a cup of tea yourself and listen. And what I want to talk about first is obviously what's right in front of us, which is, are you legally prepared for what's happening now? We're already in, it depends on where you are, how long you've been sheltered in place or having special rules or laws, but it seems like the last 2 months at least, all of our worlds have changed. Your kids are at home, they're not in school. A lot of people are not at work or they're working at home, and we're all trying to figure this out, and we all actually have some legal concerns to be that can affect us, particularly if you get sick or a loved one gets sick or a loved one passed away. And that right now I want to talk about is part of a legal toolkit, the things and the basics that you should have and be ready for at all times, so that when an emergency or something unforeseen happens, you know who to go to and you already have the paperwork in place, particularly with your health. And that is, if you end up at the hospital, when you go to the hospital, it's not just when you're admitted, they're going to want to have paperwork to show who can make decisions for you. If you're incapacitated, if you're unconscious, if you're unable to make decisions, who have you given a medical power of attorney to? Who have you given the power to make decisions on your behalf? And a lot of people have that document already ready. Other people don't have it, and they can be fairly simple. You can go call a lawyer and for not too much get one set up. Remember, every state is different, so I can't give you advice exactly what goes in it because I'm in Georgia. You may be in Utah. You may be in New York. You may be in Arizona. Wherever it is, you need to make sure that you have one that fits. But in general, the idea is that when you're going into the hospital and you're incapacitated, there's someone who can make medical decisions, someone who can make the decision. Should you be given a certain drug? Should you, God forbid, be taken away and say, I don't want any more treatment. I'm done with what's happening. Someone sometimes has to make that decision. And that's a difficult thing to do. And, we always think, depending on our age, that we don't need to do this in our 20s or our 30s or even our 40s. I mean, maybe when you have children, you start thinking about these things a little bit more. But now we're realizing that with this virus, it's hitting all different age groups. Yes, it's hitting the elderly particularly hard, but there are stories of all different age groups and all people from all different walks of life being hit, which is a reminder that no matter who you are or where you are, if you're an adult, you need to have thought this out. Who could take care of you? Who can make those decisions that you would trust, that they would make a decision for your welfare in instructing the hospital what to do, and also be able to have access to you in the hospital. I'm single. I live alone. I had to make sure, I have two wonderful sisters. My parents have passed away, but one lives in Washington State and one lives in Florida, and that's not here if I'm in an emergency. And so I have a dear friend who actually is younger than me. I did that intentionally, who I trust literally with my life by doing this, but I trust her so much. I've talked to her, I've told her how I felt about these things, and she's allowed me to put her name on my documentation so that if God forbid something happens, there's somebody who can make some decisions for me and has the paperwork. She has copies of it. She knows what's there. And that way you have it to take it to the hospital. Or if you've ever been to the hospital once before, usually you'll have that paperwork. But if it's the first time there, if you can bring those documents, or it's in a place where if you are in an emergency, someone can get it and get it to the hospital, that's really important. Because the doctors, at some point, the hospital is going to want that. It's the same thing with regard to a will. You need to go ahead and make sure you have a will. And again, every state is different in terms of what that looks like and what it has. But the fact is, you'll say, but I don't have anything. I don't have anything to give to somebody. You need the will because, number one, somebody is going to take care of your circumstances of where you live, and if you don't have a will, then it's going to be going through this process. It takes a long time to be able to determine what should happen to your things. I mean, you have clothes, you may have an animal, you may have just like one piece of jewelry that really matters to you. You have some money in your banking account. Maybe you have insurance. So again, no matter what your financial situation is, you need a will. Because don't you want to have control over who's going to be able to benefit from any money you do have, or any insurance that covers you, or anything that happens? Let's say there's a lawsuit after your death because and so maybe you don't have any assets now, but it turns out that was a case that could be brought and that there was money there available, and then who gets that money? The law has certain automatics if that's not there, but that may not be your wishes. And I think that's what's so amazing about what our legal system is. It does allow you, an individual, to have a voice. But to have your voice heard, you've got to use it, and you've got to use it in the way that the law sets up. And part of that is having a will, having a durable power of attorney, having plans for when things go wrong. And if we've learned anything during this time period, we got to be prepared. We're all running to the grocery store because we realize we don't have enough stuff in our house to go live to eat off of very long. Or some people do store things. I totally now am understanding. I never understood when my mother had this 2 extra freezers and was always worried about food. I do when I think about her life and how difficult it was and what she went through. But I didn't operate that way. I just thought, well, Mom has all these freezers, all this food. I don't need all that. And then you realize, wait a minute, I may be in my house for months, and and we're finding out we can't get access to things now, that they're not available. So it makes you pause. Oh, that planning thing is what's going to feed us. That planning thing is to let us pay our rent or our utility bills or our mortgage or for our car or whatever it is. So it is planning. And, we don't always like to plan. We'll plan a vacation. We'll plan a lot of things. We'll plan great detail who we're going to go out with and dinner with and how we're going to do things. We need to put that same planning now in a different way. And it's not hard. It's not difficult. But it's first you saying, you know what? I am going to take legal responsibility for myself and making sure that everything's in place. So, from this particular episode, I want you to just make sure that you take a few minutes tonight, if you've watched this, and think about, do you have a will? Do you have a durable power of attorney? Or if you have them, did you do them like 10 or 15 years ago? Because your life has changed. The people that you designated may have moved away. They may not live near you. You may not like them anymore. You may not be friends with them. You may have a reason that you don't trust them anymore. That happens a lot, where someone picks someone that they trust, and then relationships fall apart, or betrayals happen, and that's not the person. So once you get this will, and once you get this durable power of attorney, once you get it in place, you'll have it. And then I want you to revisit it once a year and just take an inventory about where I am, because I'm going to wish for us all health and that we get through this together and helping each other. And that is then taking a yearly look, just like you have to check renew your car insurance, you have to renew your house insurance, you have to renew the tags on your car. I want you to renew your commitment to yourself by taking a look at your legal documents. So let's start there. And thanks for joining me. And as on every episode of Law Talk with BJ, I'm enjoying a nice cup of tea. So join me again with a cup of tea, and I will try to make these a regular and help make sure that you understand the law and how it applies to you. Everyone take care, be safe, and be legally accountable to yourself so that you can help others. Thanks.